I love ripping out code. I think every developer loves ripping out code. Less code to test, less code to worry about. I'm going to go into person and change this resource pointer to a shared pointer to a resource. Now, that's not going to compile as is, obviously. I've got to put an include in here of memory, and I need to call it by its full name, standard shared pointer. Let's talk for a minute about why I chose shared pointer. It implements a reference counted sharing so that when you copy or assign a person around, the new person is pointing to the same resource as the old person. I don't know, let's say it was the car, and you change some aspect of the car. Everybody, all the person objects that were copied from each other, they would all now still be pointing to the same changed resource. The old semantics that we implemented by hand were that each person had their own individual copy of the resource. I don't think there was necessarily a business reason for it. It was just, how else were you going to do it? We weren't about to implement reference counting inside person. In many cases, a reference counted shared pointer is a really good way to deal with copying. If people are making copies of a policy or an employee record or whatever, it should still be referring to the same other things that it needs to refer to. And as long as one of those copies is still in scope, we shouldn't be deleting the stuff out on the free store. So I'm going to use a shared pointer to resource here inside person. Here's the fun part. I don't need the copy constructor anymore. A copy that copies the shared pointer to resource in one person into the shared pointer to resource in another is just fine. The reference count will get incremented. The sharing will happen. I do not need to write this code. So I can get rid of my copy constructor. Similarly, I can get rid of my operator equals. When the assignment happens and it just lands on the old P resource, that's fine. It will do the right thing, send things out of scope if they need to go out of scope. So I can get rid of my operator equals. Here, where I'm initializing it to null pointer, remember how strings just initialize themselves to quote, quote, you don't need to remember to do it? Shared pointers initialize themselves to empty. So I don't need to initialize p-resource, another thing not to worry about. And I sure as heck don't need to delete it in the destructor. When person's destructor goes off, all of its member variables will be cleaned away. The strings, arbitrary number, all of them, including the shared pointer. And the shared pointer's destructor will go off, and the shared pointer's destructor, assuming that this is the last person who cares about this particular resource, will delete the memory out on the free store. So I don't even need to have a destructor. I told you, love ripping out code. Now in add resource, I do need to worry about the old one. If there was one already, I need to tell it, the shared pointer, to let go of that resource. And I do that instead of using delete like this. The error message, by the way, is you can't delete that. It's not a pointer. It's true. Despite the fact his name starts with P, it's a solid object whose type is what we call a smart pointer. And it has a member function called reset. Resetting a shared pointer has it let go of its hold on something out on the free store. It decrements the reference count, and if that takes the reference count to 0, it will delete it. All done behind the scenes for you, not your problem. Now, you can't initialize a shared pointer by just passing it something that you got from new like this with the equal sign. The best way to get a value into this shared pointer is to use the make shared. It's again a C++ 11. All of this is C++ 11. Visual C++ 2010 supports the C++ 11 language changes. So here, I'm going to use the make shared function. It's a templated function, and I need to tell it, I need you to make me a resource. And then I just pass along the arguments to be given to the constructor. And MakeShared will take those arguments, give them to constructor for resource, get itself a pointer, put it in the member variable, do all the right things, and this smart pointer will be smart. So I've made person a lot simpler. I ripped out all that code that just took me so long to put in, and that was knowing what I'm doing. But what is going to happen when I run this diabolical main that's running around copying things and calling add resource twice and so on? Let's find out. It's all good. I have 2 constructs, 2 destructs, and I'm not making endless copies of the same resource for each individual copy of the person. There's a lot of persons being constructed that you're not seeing, and they're all sharing the same resource. And only when the last one goes out of scope, then the resource is destructed. No memory leak, no blowing up, no rule of 3, because you don't have a raw pointer in person anymore. You have a smart pointer in person. And as you can see, smart developers use smart pointers.